All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Thursday, so it is our Altered Media Day. Altered Media being movies and franchises that almost were. So let's get into today's topic, because today's topic is that time that Michael Jackson was almost in a Marvel movie. And no, I'm not talking about the time he wished he was playing Spider-Man. This almost happened. So let's jump right into it. Alright, so if you know the history of Michael Jackson, you might be aware of just how many movies he was obsessed with, how many fictional characters he really wanted to play. For example, of course, we all know he wanted to play Peter Pan in a Peter Pan movie. And originally, this, I believe, was going to be Hook, but that fell through and everything kind of went a different way. But then, a lot of people don't realize that he wanted to also play Peter Parker, Spider-Man. That's not even what this video is about, because there was another character that he almost got to play, and that, my friends, is a character in the movie Blade. Yes, so this is the time that Michael Jackson was almost in the Blade movie. So how exactly did this happen? Well, friends, it went down kind of like this. Michael Jackson was almost remembered as a Marvel superhero movie star if things had gone his way. You see, at one point, he wanted to be in the Blade movie at a time when the MCU hadn't become the MCU yet and the Avengers were not a thing. Crossovers at that time were null and void, and it was years before the Iron Man movie would change the face of comic book movies forever. Blade screenwriter David Goyer recalled a few years ago to Entertainment Weekly that New Line wanted to make a lower budget superhero film at a time when Marvel was, in fact, in bankruptcy. So they had already sold the rights to the X-Men and Spider-Man and all their other stuff, essentially. And that is how the Blade trilogy happened, with Wesley Snipes ending up as the Blade's star and co-producer. But it's actually Wesley Snipes who was pitched an idea for a role by none other than Michael Jackson in Blade 2. So Michael Jackson wanted to play a tough guy character in the Marvel Universe. You see, it began way back in the day when Michael Jackson was doing his Bad music video. And Wesley Snipes had been cast in this video. And this happened sort of strangely because Michael Jackson was impressed with Wesley Snipes. He really liked this guy's style, and he told him, he said, "Hey, you should make a career of this. You need to be an actor, dude." And Wesley Snipes like, "I am an actor." And that's essentially how this started, right? So he's in the video, and Michael Jackson just says, "You need to be an actor." And he's like, "Well, I am. I've played in this, and this, essentially, right?" So fast forward a few years, and Wesley Snipes is in the Blade movies. Michael Jackson remembers this. Michael Jackson calls him up. And Wesley Snipes said in the same interview that Michael Jackson is the one who pitched this idea to him about his role in Blade 2. So Michael Jackson asked if he could be in Blade 2, and the great Michael Jackson wanted to be in one of these movies, to be this tough guy. And he was like, "Mike, which one you gonna do? You want to play one of the vampires?" And Michael Jackson was like, "No, I want to be Blade's friend. I want to fight with you." And Wesley Snipes told him, "Oh, Mike, you got jokes." And Michael Jackson was like, "No, I'm serious." And he kind of says it's very hard to picture how people would have adapted to seeing Michael Jackson in this movie, in this role, right? So ultimately, Michael Jackson didn't get to co-star in the Blade 2 role. The sequel made the most money at the box office, reaching $155 million versus $132 million for each of the other two. So it was the highest grossing of all three Blade films. So yeah, it received all this money. It was the highest grossing of all three Blade films. And here's the kicker. People think it's far superior to Blade Trinity. Now, the story isn't quite done yet at this point because Blade 2 comes out, Michael Jackson didn't get a role in it. What if I told you just how close he came to playing a character in the Blade movies? That's right. Just how close did he come to being in the Blade movies? According to what they say, Michael Jackson would have played a tall, dark, gaunt vampire. As Kleider would later go on to say, the character would have appeared in a scene in the House of Pain, handing out bags of blood and guts. Michael Jackson's vampire would not have had any actual lines, but the cameo would have been memorable. Ultimately, it didn't work out because they weren't able to work everything out to where Michael Jackson could come in and film this cameo. So Michael Jackson was unable to get the role, so the scene was cut from the movie. Now, that's interesting because this was a scene that was actually meant to be in the movie itself. Michael Jackson was literally that close. It was scripted, it was, they had it ready, just ultimately they couldn't get him in to play the part. And that's why it fell to the wayside and the scene was cut completely. Now, here's the thing about that. We all know what comes next because Michael Jackson, like I said, wanted to play Peter Parker. So there's a little bit of an epilogue to this tale. You see, before Disney purchased Marvel Studios, Michael Jackson was also interested in buying Marvel. Stan Lee, a creative figure at Marvel in the years before his death, said that Michael Jackson was very interested in Spider-Man, a character he desperately wanted to play. And Lee said that Michael Jackson wanted to acquire Marvel because he felt that that would be the only way that he could play Spider-Man. Supposedly, he also wanted to play Professor X in Fox's X-Men movies. Michael Jackson, of course, died in 2009. The Blade trilogies were already done. Iron Man had begun to become a success, and the rest is cinematic history. Now, I find it odd that Michael Jackson was wanting to be in the Blade movies. It almost happened, and then he also wanted to buy Marvel so he could play Spider-Man. And then that little side note of him actually wanting to play Professor X is another bit of cinematic lore that you don't get to hear so often. Can you imagine how much different everything would have been if Michael Jackson was successful in being in the Blade movie to begin with? Could this have jump-started some sort of acting career for him where all of a sudden Michael Jackson is getting big roles in big budget movies? Because yes, he had some movie roles. Yes, he did some stuff. He had his own little things going on, but this would have been the jumpstart to the MCU in a big way. Not that it would have started the MCU early or anything. That wouldn't come until Iron Man. Is there a possible way that Michael Jackson Spike in this movie role might not have died when he did. We brought back Blade for the Deadpool Wolverine movie. Do you think that possibly if he had ended up playing in this Blade movie, it would have been a character that people would remember so much that we could have potentially gotten him as one of the enemies in the Deadpool Wolverine movie that the team would then have to fight? Or another question, what about if he had bought Marvel? Would there even be an MCU? Would there even be anything resembling an MCU at that point? Because he would be playing Spider-Man, and that would be that. And then you have to look at the Fox X-Men universe, with him rumored to have wanted to play Professor X. If they had gone this route, if Michael Jackson was able to secure that role, how different would the Fox X-Men have looked? And how different would the MCU, going into our next phase of the MCU with all of the mutants, how would that look? Drastically different. But that, my friends, is where I'm going to leave it off to you. I wanted to let you know that this almost happened. And I want to hear your thoughts on all of this. Is this something you think you would have been interested in? Is this something you just think is this insane thing that you're glad it didn't happen? Are you intrigued in any way by any of this stuff? Whatever you're thinking, there's no wrong answer. I just want to hear from all of you. So make sure you do leave me that comment in the comment box below. Make sure you share this video with all of your friends so they can be a part of this conversation as well. Then if you like positive content, go ahead and hit that like button. It can only help. Tell the algorithm you want more positive content. And if you like our channel personally, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button and that notification bell right next to it so you never miss a single video we do. Because friends, at the end of the day, I know it and you know it. Fandom is family.